Howdy, partners! Welcome to the Haunted Chronicles, episode 143. It's the last show of the year, and we have a Christmas spectacular Lollapalooza humdinger of a show lined up for you tonight. Christopher Quaratino, formerly known as Christopher Lutz, is our guest tonight. And Christopher has been portrayed in movies, in books, and tonight you will hear his story. And he will join us shortly. And for those of you in Twitter land, follow Chris on Twitter. It's Amityville Kid on Twitter, at Amityville Kid. I am Mr. Haunted, joined by Jennifer Jingle Bell Runyon and Brock Bells on Bobtail Ring Burroughs. And we have a special guest co-host tonight, a former guest and best-selling author, Edwin Becker. Are all you fellas here today?
Yes.
Here today, my friend.
All right.
Good evening.
Good
Hey.
evening. Thanks for joining us tonight, Edwin.
You're welcome. It sounds like we could possibly have a vocal traffic jam here.
Yeah.
Well, I will bow out, in and out very quickly, but your voice, oh my God, your voice, Edwin. I forgot how great your voice was.
Everyone has
you.
a real voice but me.
Jimmy, can I say hello to a few people real quick?
Darn tootin' you can.
They're probably in your chat room. Richard Moore, Robin Yorkston Rummel. It's her birthday today. Happy birthday, Robin.
Happy birthday.
Jimmy Foss Jr. and Matt Bell.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Well, what a year we've had, fellas.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
No.
And I was going to start thanking all the guests that came on. If we started, it wouldn't end, and then I'd feel bad if I left somebody out. So we had a bunch of great guests. We want to thank all our former and all the listeners this year. So thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
My first question for you guys is: anybody have any snow? Christmas is 2 days away. Does anybody? Jennifer, you don't have snow. I think you have some rain.
We don't have snow, but we've been raining. It's been great. Oh my gosh, it's been great.
Yeah, we don't have snow here either, and it's supposed to be 50. So, and we're leaving tomorrow around lunchtime to go down to Charlotte to get ready for the bowl game.
And is it going to snow there?
No, it's only 3 hours south of us in North Carolina, so it's actually going to be a little bit warmer down there with a chance of rain. So,
oh my goodness.
Yeah, so it's not going to feel. It'll be kind of good because normally we're used to like Florida for bowl games, but
yeah,
we'll take this.
What about you, Jimmy?
I'm in Missouri. And we just have a little bit of rain. That's all.
Rainy in Missouri, and Jimmy in Connecticut. What is it looking like there?
No snow. And hey guys, did you see the Carrie Fisher news?
Yep.
Oh,
terrible.
It's terrible. Her terrible. My friend is married to her brother, and I just am heartbroken, and I'm waiting to hear what's going on. But wow,
I haven't heard anything, since the incident. I guess
yeah.
And it's been a year of deaths. I mean, It's just been piling up.
2017 be a good one.
Mm-hmm.
For our friend.
Yeah.
I pray.
Definitely. Yes.
Oh. After you guys ask how I am, I have an announcement.
We're not going to ask you.
No, but Edwin is.
Yeah, we'll let Edwin do it.
Yeah, Edwin, you got to ask Jimmy how he's doing.
Yeah, I have to ask who?
Jimmy.
Jimmy. Yeah, you have to ask Jimmy how's he's doing.
It's a tradition.
How you doing, Jimmy?
Oh, I don't have anything prepared, but
I
am happier than the green-crested mountain warbler, singing the deck the halls with boughs of holly song, while perched upon a snowy branch of the figlark tree, like he's freaking Ralph Macchio or something.
Are you in Colorado or something? You smoke some weed?
It's he doesn't have to be there because it's medical.
I mean that's pretty darn happy.
Yeah, right.
Oh, that's funny.
Before Edwin has kindly offered a giveaway tonight, a signed set of the books True Haunting 1 and 2. And I will ask a trivia question a little later And please come to the chat room at paramaniaradio.com. And I think the easiest way to do it, since we have 5 people connected already, instead of phone calls, we'll do it in the chat. So please come to chat at paramaniaradio.com. Like I said, we'll ask a trivia question in a little while. And the first person that answers correctly in the chat room, you send me your information on the side note there, or if you're on my Facebook, send me your information. Edwin will send you. Tell them about it, Edwin.
It'll be a signed set of True Haunting 1 and True Haunting 2.
A signed set?
And I'll sign them. I'll sign them to whoever you like. So if you're going to give them as a gift, if you already have the books and you want to give it as a gift, just give me the name of the person you'd like me to address it to.
Holy mackerels.
That's so cool. I love that. Awesome. I love this. Prizes. This is fantastic.
Yeah, we got prizes.
Yeah. Gifts.
And for our
well, it's Christmas. It's Christmas. You got to have some prizes.
Of course. Right. And before we get to celebrity birthdays and Christopher, please visit edwinbecker.com and truehaunting.com. And to follow Christopher on Twitter, he's at Amityville Kid on Twitter. That's the best Twitter name ever, Amityville Kid.
I am anxious to hear this guest.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so then we are going to start with celebrity birthdays. And Edwin, I think you might have done this last time you were on. These celebrities are celebrating a birthday this upcoming week, and you guess how old they're going to be.
Okay.
So our first celebrity is Stan Lee, who was a comic book writer, editor, publisher, and former president of Marvel Comics, creator of Spider-Man, the Hulk, Daredevil, Thor, X-Men, etc., etc., and I still say mine since I was a kid. How old will Stan Lee be next week?
81.
Okay, 81. Brock, what do you think?
I'm going to say 95.
Oh. Well, I'm going to go somewhere in the middle of there, and I'm going to say 80. How about 86?
Stanley will be 94 years old.
Oh.
Holy crap.
So close.
He was old when I was a kid.
Yeah.
My comic books as a kid, he was an older looking gentleman, in the... Good for him.
Yeah, for sure. Oh.
God bless him.
Yeah. And how about Sissy Spacek? And I remember last time we did her birthday, Willie Ames was our guest, because I remember he told us a story about her.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
I'm going to say she's going to be 71.
All right, for those who don't know who she is, she was in American Haunting and was poor Carrie White in the movie Carrie and was also in The Ring 2. So she was at 72?
Okay, so Edwin said 71.
Oh,
Brock, what do you think? 72? Did you say 72? 71?
I think he said 71. I'm going to go with 70.
I'm going to say 68.
Ooh, so close. 67.
She's
that.
lying. She's shaving her age there.
Yeah.
And I got one more for you. Anthony Hopkins, who was in The Right, The Wolfman, Bram Stoker's Dracula, Audrey Rose, and was Hannibal Lecter in Silence of the Lambs. Anthony Hopkins.
84.
84. Okay, I'm going to say 85.
I'm going to say 80.
80.
Oh, I'm sorry. We don't have any buzzers today. And he will be 79 years old.
Well, good. Good.
My microphone isn't working, my speakers aren't working, and my bell isn't working.
Aww.
All right, so we have a special guest for you guys tonight. And we'll get to our contest in a little bit. Let's introduce our guest, who is formerly known as Christopher Lutz, who grew up, lived in the Amityville house when he was 7 years old. And let's introduce Christopher Lutz. He's coming down the hallway right now. Christopher!
Yes, sir.
How are you?
Happy to be here. Happy to be finally getting to tell my story a little bit tonight. And looking forward to telling the whole thing once I can put it all in a book and put a copyright on it, because everybody thinks that they know the Amityville story, and they've been mooching off of this thing since day one. So
All
I'm
right.
gonna get things straightened out, and I'm taking it over. If anybody sees something that says Amityville on it, and I'm not personally in it, it's not authentic.
Right. And Christopher, the first question I got from a lot of people were, why the name change? If you could tell that story.
Well, look, I'm Italian, and you don't put kraut on a sausage.
I like the accent too, the New York accent. It's awesome.
Well, when it comes down to it, growing up with the story, originally, when that first book came out, it put everybody's name in print.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a lot of controversy about this story. And as a little kid, I took the brunt end of it because my name was in that book. And when we fled New York and went to California, as a little kid in a California school with a New York accent and the same name that was in that book, there was no way to disguise myself or leave myself out of the limelight or the public scrutiny that followed from all the negative publicity and the accusations of a full-blown hoax.
Of course.
Right.
How old were you when you moved out?
Well, 1 month later, I would have been 8, so I was still 7.
Okay. So there's a 7-year-old kid with a story out there with your name in it, and then you moved to... Am I breaking up?
Yeah, you did a little bit. You're okay.
I didn't know if that was a question that was open-ended that I was supposed to interject into.
Oh no, you're good. You're good. But I have a question for you, Chris. How when you moved into that house, what was the first thing that happened that you as a 7-year-old was aware of?
Well, the first day moving in was actually before we moved in. My first recollection of being at that house was down in the basement of the house. This would have been like right around the closing or just before the closing. I don't know if it was the final walkthrough as the offer was going in or what it was, but our whole family was there. This was the first time we had all been there. Mom, George, my brother and sister, and we were down in the basement. And I remember asking, is that where they hid the bodies? And I was asking that to my parents, and they looked at each other, and then they looked at the real estate agent, and they all looked at each other, and they all looked at me, and nobody said a word. And it just remained an open-ended thing that left me curious. My parents had claimed that they had told us kids before moving in there and that everybody was okay with it. I don't recall that conversation. I do remember asking that question in that basement that day. Just the way it was left hanging was something that remained a memory with me.
Wow.
And what happened when you moved to California? How were you? How was the school life there?
Initially, I don't think, where did we go to school first? I remember going to I don't recall if we immediately went into a public school or immediately went into a Catholic school. Let's see, when we got there, we moved into, I remember this, it was the Del Mar Hotel in La Jolla, California. And, it was a whole new place. Here we were in California. I was, originally from Long Island, and everything was different. there's palm trees and, bright skies instead of cloudy and doomy. And I remember the day we flew out. It was Mother's Day, and on that plane ride, I remember making a personally made Mother's Day card for my mom. I remember when we got on the ground, and Harry, our dog, was the crate came through, and we received his crate, and it was time to let him out. And the way that he walked down the sidewalk was like totally, can I say dog-assed on here?
Yeah.
Where he wasn't in his straight line. It was like his rear end. If you ever seen a car that's had a collision in the rear end and it's going down the road and it's not straight, the butt is off to one side. And so it was just kind of, there's little memories of many, 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 many things. And, I like that, the Del Mar Hotel. I remember, I remember playing on the stairwell of that thing. I don't remember what floor we were on, but we were a couple of stories at least. And this railing, the stairwell went down circularly to the ground. And somebody down on the ground was calling up to a family member of theirs. It wasn't part of our family. I don't know. And they were calling up, telling some family member to go get something. And nobody was answering. And I yelled down, "No!" I mean, just silly stuff that, it creates a memory that lasts. And,
right.
The fun ones are fun to remember. The things that really get seared into your memory are things that happen that are traumatic and remain with a permanent stain. They go in.
That was going to be my question, Chris. I was going to ask you, did the house and the haunting leave you with PTSD? But it kind of sounds like being in California schools with a New York accent may have left you with PTSD.
Well, I boxed it out quite a bit. As soon as word got going in the media that the whole thing was a hoax and kids were coming to me telling me my mother was a liar. That was go time. I believe in old school values, and that's what was instilled in me as a kid. Somebody disrespects your mother, you straighten them out. And now I'm not a very good guy.
Who do you blame? Who do you blame?
Who do I blame? Here's the crux of the matter, Edwin. We've never really had a chance ever to talk. I've known of you. We've not had a discussion before. Here's my biggest issue with what is known as the Amityville Horror. I didn't read the book until I was an adult preparing for an interview with the History Channel. And when I did read it, this would have been right around the year 2000. When I did read it, and I saw the way that Jay Hansen had constructed that book, on the front cover it says clearly a true story. On the binder, it says it's nonfiction. And this is what went out so many years earlier. This was 25 years earlier. It had gone out to the public. And so in preparation for this History Channel interview, the question was going to be to me, what's the difference between what actually happened in the house and what it says in the book? I wasn't going to be able to answer that question on national TV. That's why I read this book for the first time, so I could answer that question for the History Channel. Now I want you guys to imagine for a moment that I'm holding in my hands your family photo album from when you were a child. And I'm going to go ahead and tell your listening audience what happened to you as I look at those pictures. How accurate am I going to be?
Yeah, I get it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what's going to happen is, as I'm telling that your audience what happened to you as a kid, you're going to, even if you didn't look at that picture for Edwin, what did you say you were 96? Stanley, how old are you, sir?
I'm sorry, 96 on what?
I'm asking how old are you?
Your age.
I feel like 96, but go ahead.
So do I. So do I.
It could be like a generation ago that you looked at those pictures last. But just the fact that I'm bringing up these pictures, but as I'm telling it, as I twist that story, you're going to recall everything that was going on at the time. It didn't matter how long ago it was, because now that picture's in front of you. You're going to remember who took the photo, who's outside the frame, and everything else that's going on at the moment, as best you recollect. And so that's what I was
exactly.
That's what I was experiencing.
Exactly.
That's what I was experiencing as I read through Jay Anson's version of what had happened to me and my family as I read the book that he had written so many years earlier. And each page was written.
That's why I asked you, who do you blame? Because I've had some dealings with the movie industry, and I know what they do, and it's amazing what they'll do. Do you blame the writer, or do you blame the movie industry?
I'll move to the answer. Right now, I'm just talking about the book. So we're talking about it's either Jay Anson or it's George and my mom. And the way that this book was set up was my parents had spoken into a recording. I forget how many hours. I think I remember them saying at one point, or George saying at one point, that they had spoken for about 40 hours into cassettes. And then those were handed over to Jay Anson. And from those, Jay Anson constructed the book. So there was a way that George was able to say, look, that's not what I said, because I've never heard those tapes that Jay Anson worked with. So I don't know whether to blame George or Jay Anson. But as I read it, and it's written out as though it's a diary of daily events, day 1, day 2, day 3, etc. It didn't line up at all with my recollection. And, of course, that was written from a different person's point of view. It wasn't from my personal perspective. It would have been from my parents' perspective. And so, of course, there's going to be things that they experienced that I wasn't present for, and they weren't present for the things that I was experiencing off on my own, up in my bedroom, over in the playroom, interacting with my siblings. And so here's the crux of it. As I read through that book, by the time I got done with the book, and I read as the way that George was portrayed, we moved into the house as a family. George and our family became the victim of this house, and then he's a hero to the family, rescuing them in the end, and then we all live happily ever after. Not at all the way that it happened. The biggest thing to me that was left out was George's involvement in the occult. And the fact that he wasn't an innocent victim, but rather a perpetrator that instigated this thing and brought it upon our family. And that remained with us as we left the house and followed us for many years. And when I get into what's been happening in my own personal life, all the way up to the present, you'll see that this isn't some joke.
This is a good time. I'm sorry to interrupt you. It's going to be a cliffhanger. It's time for our break. And we'll be right back with Christopher Quaratino after these important messages. Welcome back to the Haunted Chronicles, home of your guaranteed halftime shout-out for those in chat. So thank you for listening today. Dr. Dave, Indy Dwayne, Edwin, Pam, Firefighter 243, Betsy and family, Matt, Tony, Maggie Renee, Nicholas, Brooke, Oklahoma Lady, Cheryl Carter, Mary Lou, Kimmy J, Laura, Kara E, Brock, Sprinkles, Ann, and I see Junebug and Brandon listening, Rick from Electric City Paranormal, Randy, Frankie B, and Corey. And you know what? it's the end of the year. I just want to thank a few groups that share our event page every week. Paranormal Billboard, Edge of Fear, Realm of the Unknown, Paranormal Planet, Electric City Paranormal, Big Bear Ghost Seekers, On the Fringe with Art Bell and Heather Wade, Interviews from Beyond, Ghosts and All Things Paranormal, and the Appalachian UFO Research Society. And we're going to do our giveaway now. And if I could find my sheet, for anybody in chat, if you're not in chat, come to paramaniaradio.com. We're going to do this in the chat room. Okay, I came up with a trivia question. The first person to answer in the chat room will receive Edwin's autographed book set. And if you're the winner, please message me on the in the chat room if you can. Or if not, on my Facebook, if you could find me, we'll figure it out. Okay, you ready? Here's the question. What was the first horror film to be nominated for the Best Picture Academy Award? First person that answers correctly in the chat room will win an autographed set of Edwin's books. Okay, we're on a little delay. Everybody's scrambling furiously at their keyboard.
They're hitting Wikipedia right now.
Yeah. Oh, and then just next week, we're taking the week off, and then we're coming back in January. Our first guest is Dave Schrader.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
Good dude right there.
Yeah, isn't he the best, Chris? He's great.
You know, years ago when I first decided that I needed to do something about this, Dave had sent me a number of different emails, and they were all genuine, and I felt that he'd give me a fair shake, so I decided to do his show first. And, you know, a lot of passion came out of me that night. He called me back 2 days later, and he says, look, man, I've been on radio for 7 years. And he said, I've never had that kind of audience response. He'd received 200 emails about that show, and all but 2 were positive. One of them was from a guy that was one of the negative ones I had referred to as a dingleberry on the show.
There's another one, dingleberry. One of our old favorite words.
And you guys do know what that is, right?
Well, I have an idea.
We'll keep a cleaner, cleaner show.
We'll keep it clean.
It tends to be a ball hanging off the end of a hair in a certain part of the anatomy.
There you go.
This is a guy that continues to this day to run his mouth off about my mother, and I take offense to it. People don't know what she went through, and you know, a lot of people throughout the years have taken it upon themselves to attach themselves to this story, looking at it from the outside and saying, no, I don't believe it, and they're going to make a living for themselves trying to discredit it. In the process of trying to discredit it, they're talking about my mother.
Yeah.
And knowing what she went through and what these people think is proper about speaking about another person's mother, you know, look, my mom taught me better than to speak about somebody else's mother. And if I got to do your mother's job and give you that spanking she didn't, I'll be happy to dish it out. So
there you go.
That's just the way I am.
Yeah.
Anyway, so back to Dave Schrader. Yeah, great guy. He happened to be in Arizona. He was out here doing the show Paranormal Challenge with Zach Bagans up in Jerome, Arizona, and I found out he was here. I was like, hey, dude, let me get with you. I've never met you. He's like, all right, come on up on set. So I hung out on set there, and then that was really interesting. I had never met Zach. In fact, I don't watch any of the shows, so I really didn't know much about him, other than, you know, his reputation on online. And but that guy's a go-getter, I'll tell you what.
Yeah, that's for sure, right?
It doesn't matter what you think of the man and how he does what he does. I watched an operation where there was probably at least 60 individuals that were personally assigned to his just running the equipment and everything. There was miles of cable running to hook together all the cameras, and the guy just it's an amazing thing to see somebody operating such a thing at such a level where he owns the show, he directs, and is on camera all at the same time. Just I found that inspiring, and if I could even do something a fraction of what he had done in putting together my own story and doing it justice the way it should be done, I think we'll have a fantastic telling. Anyway, so after that show, Dave says to me, "Hey, you want to go over to Sedona and we'll go watching for UFOs?" I'm like, "Yeah, all right." It was cloudy, so we didn't see any UFOs. We sat around, we talked for all night. It was awesome. Made a good
cool.
night. Anyway,
yeah, he's a nice guy. Yeah.
So on with what we were talking about tonight. I'll tune in to listen to Dave talk to you next week when you fire this thing back up. But so this is where I am today. I'm taking my stand. I found out that another movie was getting ready to come out, and I found that to be one too many. This will be number 18.
Wow.
When I found out what the plot line was, and that the new movie that is supposed to release on January 6th, called Amityville: The Awakening. When I watched the trailer that's been available online for several years now, because they've delayed the release date. As I was watching that, the plot line is about a single mom who moves into the Amityville house, and she has 3 kids. One of those kids is sick, and the reason they're moving to that location is because of its closeness or necessity for the child to get medical care. And it appears as though the child dies and is reanimated. Here's why I had an issue with that. Carmen Reed is a personal friend of mine. When I figured out that is her storyline, and that the man that wrote this story, the screenplay, had worked with her previously, it became clear that he was playing with her story. Not only playing with her story, which is her baby, but depicting her son, who really did die in real life. So to me, they are taking her story and molesting it in my house. And I will not just stand by and do nothing while this emotionally sends her in a nosedive. She didn't feel that there was anything that she could do about it. She attempted to get this straightened out by getting a lawyer. The lawyers told her it'll take $30,000 to even get the paperwork started, and there was no guarantee they could stop it. She doesn't have 30 grand laying around to throw at something she's not sure is going to get results for something that shouldn't be taking place in the first place. And so, for many years, I've not come forward. This has been something where it is like really, really messed with me to the point. Yeah, I've had PTSD as a result of things that. Look, my PTSD is not service related. I served honorably. A lot of things I did in the military, but where I'm at with my mental situation is not as a result of that. It's as a result of watching what's happened to my story. It's watching a movie in 2005 go around the world in theaters where they say, "We found the children's diaries. This is the real story." That's what the commercial said for the first 3 months until I said, "Hey, where do you get off doing that?" And I said, "Where's the rights that you have to portray me?" And then MGM presents me with rights that my parents signed when I was a minor.
Oh, wow.
That they sold off for $400 per kid. Look, my parents weren't in this thing for money. They should have negotiated better. All right. They sold each of the rights to each of the kids for $400 a head. And so in 2005, when I was an adult, my siblings were all adults. MGM needed to come to us kids and revisit those rights and secure those rights before they could portray us in a motion picture and make merchandise of us, which they did not do.
I agree.
And they did not even say, they didn't even say, hey, you want to come on, get involved here and at least be a consultant for this? Nothing. And so for the last 11 years, that movie's been playing in theaters, and I know, and not just in theaters. Now it's on TV on multiple channels, multiple times per year, every freaking Halloween. And in that movie, they depict me. They show they kill my dog. They show my sister getting ready to commit suicide by jumping off the roof, as she is convinced to do so by an entity that they're saying is called Jody, which is not true to the original book, which is what this movie is supposed to be based off of. They made up their own Jody, and what that Jody was in their movie was actually supposed to be representative of one of the dead DeFeo children, which they show in their movie, who was an actual victim. There was 2 daughters that were murdered in that house who are actual victims, and this is how they're going to memorialize them. They're going to put a hole in the little kid's head and show her as though she's trapped in perpetuity in this thing in torment. And then they're going to take the babysitter and stick the babysitter's finger in her head. Yeah, real freaking classy. This is what they choose to do. They built a coffin for me in that movie. And every year it shows over.
I could talk a lot about the movie industry, because one of the reasons my book is not a movie is dealing with those people. But you got to understand too that they're not making documentaries.
I don't give a
movie. They're out for shock factor, and
if they don't own the rights, they don't have them. And when they're going to do that to a nice lady like Carmen Reed, here's the way I see it. It's the big bad wolf with all his little piggies gathered around this lady, right outside my front house, in my front lawn. If I were to see that going on in my front yard, and I walked out there and knocked at every one of them and killed them, that would have been self-defense on the part and for Carmen Reed. Not guilty. Sorry. But that's where I'm at with this. You don't do that to people. I don't care what your contract says. I don't care how you want a creative license, call it that it is fabricated and these don't represent real people. I know it does represent a real person, and I happen to know exactly what person and that you were previously involved in it. I know the other stuff that you've been doing behind the scenes when you're trying to get a hold of a different family who had 1 father and 3 kids. And he's got a record of that too, that you wanted to put a family with a single parent in the situation. Yeah. And this is all coming forward in a lawsuit here shortly.
So Chris, now I know now you want your story out there. So what are you doing now? What is it? How are you getting all this together? And is it going to be a documentary? Are you what are you doing?
Obviously, if you've ever looked at a film, it doesn't matter whether it's a documentary or if it's a feature-length film. There's a lot of names in the credits.
Of course.
As much as I want to keep as much control as possible, here's what I demand. Mm-hmm. I demand that it be exactly the way I say it. And if you can't depict it the way that I say it, then we're only going to show me saying it. I don't like nonsense. That's the whole reason I'm coming forward this in the first place. I'd like to do something on the lines of a docudrama where there are some reenactments, but even more so than all of the things that I've talked about so far. As an adult, once I read that book, starting in the year 2000, I began to reflect upon what had happened to me and began to understand and look at the things that people weren't told publicly that I knew were going on in the family. And I began to piece these pieces together. And as I did that, I reinvestigated my own story.
Mm-hmm.
And there is a very chilling conclusion as I piece these parts together, connecting the dots and taking you to what will be clearly the conditions for one of the most, definitely the most extreme haunting you've ever heard about. And that's even without thinking about and or relying upon the mass murder of the DeFeos in the home before us.
Wow. We got 4 minutes left.
Well, with that last 4 minutes, let me just kind of tell you what I'm doing and how you can get a hold of me. You, people that are listening, thank you, Jimmy, for putting out there that I'm on Twitter. Yeah, to find me on Twitter, it'll be Amityville_kid. And then on my my Facebook page, you can find me at facebook.com/AmityvilleKid, one word. And here coming up in the future, you can look forward to my website, which should be live here within the next couple of weeks. I had chosen to try to do my story and separate it from all the stuff that was before it. And people have taken liberties with the name Amityville because it's not trademarkable. That's why there's so many films that are all from different authors and writers, and hardly any of them are all from one company except for the original, the remake, and this one that's coming out. That's the only three that are combined with one company. All the rest are independent. And so in order to separate my story from all the stuff that has been before it, I didn't want to put the word Amityville in my title. But I wanted to make sure that people would remember it. I believe my story to be exactly what I'm about to tell you. But what I want to do is, my title is a question. And it's a question that you can only answer after you've completely heard me through. Mm-hmm. And then you can tell me if this is the creepiest story of all time. That's the title of my story.
And please come back after you get that all ready to go.
Thanks for having me on, man. I know we're down to the last couple of seconds here, and sorry about the language. I'm pretty passionate about stuff.
That's okay. It happens, Chris. You know, when you get passionate and you know.
I generally
don't worry.
Sure. I mean, I can be funny and everything without even like bringing up a word like that. But when it comes to the way that people like have done, they have
just for a little bit of levity, okay? Since there's so much Amityville stuff, I would recommend that you trademark the Amityville musical.
No, I'll not even use the name Amityville. I've filed for trademark on the creepiest story of all time in a question mark, in a question form, and I the .com that'll come on soon. I've got a couple more things to do to make the final of we already did the usage search and paying lawyers on this, and just a quick plug for all your legal needs, check out LegalZoom.com.
Oh,
cool.
Let's go.
Hey, I want to thank you, Christopher, for coming on with us. Thank you, Edwin, for coming on with us and doing a giveaway. Please follow Christopher on at Amityville Kid on Twitter. Happy New Year, Merry Christmas, everybody. We're out of time, unfortunately.
Yes.
Thank you.
Merry Christmas. Goodbye, everyone.
Merry Christmas. Bye.
Great show, guys.